Hello everyone, today we're doing a series retrospective for the Old Kingdom series by Garth Nix. As a series, in 1997, Harry Potter exploded like a nuke across the pop culture, and following up that in 2008, The Hunger Games exploded across the genre of YA fiction again. These books feel nothing like those books, basically. These are unapologetically classical style novels. I could compare them more to something like Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, or they're Arthurian even. They have Arthurian elements. The character of Touchstone in these, he's the sleeping king who you need to wake up to save the kingdom. If you're not going to stick around very long, I suggest you, if you're only going to read one book, I suggest you read this one, Sabriel. If you plan to read the entire series, I suggest you read it in internal chronological order, specifically starting with Tercel and Eleanor. The next book in the series, or there's an additional book, a far past prologue called Clario. I did not think it was very good. You can hold it off to last if you really want to. Additionally, the novellas Across the Wall and To Hold the Bridge, they're pretty good. You should read them as well when they come up in the timeline. Okay, so let's actually get started. Growing up, this was a favorite series of mine. These are YA books, middle grade and YA. I'll talk about that more in a minute. I'm particularly fond of the book Sabriel because it has relentless pacing, which means that it's nonstop go, 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 go from the first page pretty much. If it has a flaw, and I do think it does have a flaw, the characters are kind of bland. If you read YA from the modern day, you're used to kind of angsty characters like Rin from the Poppy War and Katniss from the Hunger Games. These characters aren't like that. Sabriel is a prefect from a school. She is emotionally stable. She keeps a stiff upper lip. She never complains. She's hardworking. She's extremely bland. Her love interest, Touchstone, has deep depression, which he keeps bottled up and pushed down. As a result, he's kind of also emotionally stunted and a bit bland, if you are being blunt. Overall, they're engaging characters, but they can be kind of boring to read, if I'm just being honest, at least compared to some other ones in this genre. Now that said, I do think the characters get better in later books. Specifically, I do enjoy Lyriel probably as a character the most out of this series because she has depression basically. Overall, these are very well told stories. I enjoy the setting. It does a strange thing. There is a location called the Wall. Everything north of the Wall is a medieval kingdom which is trapped in an undead apocalypse, whereas everything below the Wall is a turn of the last century British empire, basically, called Ancestiere, where they have airships, they have airplanes, they have cars below the Wall. North of it, they have horse and buggy, they have zombies, people are dying left and right. And to keep things under control, the British and Celestiarians below the Wall have basically set up a military perimeter trying to keep people out, keep all the zombies out. It's a very compelling setting because of that culture clash. A theme overall in this series is the Chosen One bloodlines. Basically, all the main characters are from the special bloodlines of the Abhorsen family, which are monster hunters who are necromancers as well. You have the royal family, which are kings and queens, and you have the Clare, which are people who see the future. These are special bloodlines. Only these people are allowed to be special. The normal people in the Old Kingdom aren't special. They basically die by the dozen and they're all expendable. I don't generally like magical bloodline stories because they can be a bit legitimate the aristocracy and monarchy. I did not like that the author doubled down on that here. After like a 6 or 7 book series, the author never really turned that on its head. All of its powerful characters always come back to these bloodlines. I don't like that aspect of the series. Next, I like the setting because It feels eldritch and strange. There are magical creatures around every corner, all of them inimical to life. You never know what's going to turn up, but whenever it does turn up, you know people are going to die because it's scary. Having all of these zombies at every turn, all these, the Stilken, Magru, and Hish, all those sorts of creatures are all very memorable. And then we have the characters Mogget and the Disreputable Dog. Mogget is a basically demon who has been transformed into a cat by the Abhorsen family and is now their slave. And then there is the Disreputable Dog, which is a basically demon who transformed herself into a dog and now willingly serves the Claire. Mogget is a sarcastic little guy who's always a hoot to have on the page, and if you listen to the audiobook, the first 3 audiobooks were narrated by Tim Curry, and they're always excellent because he does a good sarcastic hissing cat impression whenever he speaks for Mogget. Meanwhile, the dog has a very earnest, loyal, loving, and also nippy personality. Let's talk about the villains. Broadly, they suck. We'll start with Caragor. He is the antagonist for Sabriel and also Tercio and Eleanor. He barely ever appears on screen. He's more like a big bad you see off in the distance a la Sauron. Not really memorable, I have to say. Then we have Hedge, Oranus, and Clor from these 2 books. Hedge is intimidating. He's a Ancestarian, meaning he's like a British guy who went to the Old Kingdom and became an evil immortal sorcerer, and now the heroes have to fight him. He felt very intimidating, and like they could never kill him because they shot him full of arrows more than once and he just survived. They were only able to defeat him in the end by basically using the most primal death magic possible to actually kill him. He was very threatening from whenever he was on the page. I loved him as a character. Then there's Oranus, the great destroyer, the greatest spirit who ever lived, who's intent on basically destroying all life. I did not like him. He felt like a MacGuffin. He's not even a big bad he's supposed to be like a big bad like Sauron, but he's a rock the entire series long, and as a result doesn't do anything. He's a rock, and I find it boring. And finally we have Clora of the Mask, or Clariel. She is a fallen Abhorsen, and she stars of the book Clariel. Her appearances in Abhorsen and Lyrael, in those books, she's very scary and intimidating. We get very little of her, but we learn she's a fallen Abhorsen. In the later book Clariel, okay, I'll just be blunt, that book is so bad it made her a bad character in retrospect. And additionally, I enjoyed the book Golden Hand, but she's the main villain in the book Golden Hand. However, at the end of that book, she doesn't accomplish much. She only has like 1 or 2 lines of dialogue in the entire book, which is strange. She was the main big bad in that book. I was expecting more from her. She had more lines of dialogue in each of these 2 combined, as well as both of them combined. And she's the main character of the book Clariel. However, in the book Golden Hand, where she's the final boss, she barely plays a speaking role. She doesn't do much. I was disappointed by that. I wanted more from her. Additionally, the book Tercio and Eleanor, which is the most recent book to come out but serves as a prequel, basically it has all the same characters return. It has Caragor, it has Hedge, and they serve adequately. I enjoyed them. It was a good book. Overall, this is a very good series. I suggest you should check it out if you want to read a good YA series. But there is one problem I need to bring up. Many of these books read like they are YA books. Perfectly suitable for someone aged 13 plus. Whereas some of the other ones are middle grade books, meaning they're suitable for someone like 8 to 12 years old. The problem is that the author's writing style changed halfway through the series. So it went from, the first few books in the series were all targeted for someone 13 and older, and the last few books in the series felt like they're targeted for someone 12 and younger. As a result, it feels like halfway through the series, the quality of the series gets worse from a reading perspective because the book is suitable for children now instead of being suitable for young adults. And that's fine. I just wish it was the other way around. If you go back to the Harry Potter books, you'll note that that series was complimented when it was published because it was, as the early books in the series were middle grade and the later books were YA, the author gradually graduated the series up from middle grade to YA as her readers went from middle grade to YA. This book did the opposite, and that felt clunky and bad from a reading experience point of view. Overall, I'm glad I reread this series. I did not enjoy this as much this time as this reading as I have in the past. That's not because it's a worse series now. However, it's just I'm an older reader. These are Bildungsromans. Romans. These are a coming-of-age story for teenagers. I'm not a teenager anymore. I've kind of moved on. I'm glad that I read this growing up. That's it. Have a nice day.